start with you. Let's start with you, Eborn.
Yes.
Ezidi.
Yes.
How did he manage to game the system so easily?
It is, well, you say gaming the system. This is the thing. And we've got to separate those who are entitled to be here and the justifiable reasons and those who basically, as you say, game the system.
Yeah.
And this is talking about abuse. And when there's been abuse, when people pretend to convert to Christianity, which is what happened here, and it was very clear that he pretended, because he surrounded himself with his old non-Christian mates and so on and so forth.
Well, Christians can have non-Christian friends.
Like occasionally, but they said...
Occasionally.
Not on a Sunday. No, but you're right. But apparently, to everybody, they all knew it's just a big joke. And nobody believed in his whole sort of side that he was a Christian. So it was an abuse of the system. So that's the principle. So is the system right? If it's right, that's fine. If it's being abused, then call out the abuse. And this was an abuse and it should be called out.
Eborn, I mean, I'm still stuck on the part of you saying Christians can't be friends with non-Christians.
I didn't say Christians.
That's basically what you're saying. That's basically
That's
you know what? I'm going to go to Eve. Do you think he gamed the system properly, or do you think maybe he did convert to Christianity because he really believes that he'd found the light in Jesus Christ, and then afterwards he was like, actually, this ain't what it's cracked up to be?
That is a slight possibility, but I'm not really buying it. And I also think this is reflective of the church's desperation to recruit people. You know, you see them now very accepting. Before it was a bit more discerning who could join the church, and now it's, you know, a free-for-all. And I think that's very demonstrative in what's happened here.
Well, Megan, I don't understand this because I'm a Catholic. When I wanted to get married, I had to go through months of rehearsals and lessons with my local priest. This guy took, they call it an alpha course, which takes like a 2-3 weeks. You can even do it fast than that if you do it every day. And then suddenly, this reverend was like, no, yeah, I completely buy it. So how do you think this is not going to be the only case of this happening?
No, of course it's not going to be the only case. You do mention two quite different things. Using a church for your wedding venue and joining are two very different things. However, I don't think he's gamed the system. I think our system is, by design, there to be gamed. And I sound exceptionally harsh because I really do believe genuine Christians are being, it's not a belief, it's an objective fact, they're being persecuted all over the world and some of them need refuge. But the system is set up so bureaucratic at the moment with the numbers we have to get through that the fact on these grounds an appeal, even though he was a convicted sex offender, has allowed him to stay, means that the system is just, it's by design. And some would argue he just used, the tools that were in front of him.
So Christians are being persecuted the world over, granted, but he wasn't a Christian where he was.
No, I know.
He came here and then applied, 3 times to stay, denied, and then is a Christian, which is a big difference. If he was coming over from Afghanistan saying, I'm a Christian and they're going to kill me back there, I'd be like, oh, OK, but that ain't what he did.
Huge difference. I was kind of just highlighting, you know, that has to stay, I would argue, has to stay. A right to be able to be granted asylum in the UK. But the issue I have here is more the sexual assault conviction, that it really was that easy for him. And we have to have some red lines. And right now, our system doesn't have any.
So that's the point, though, isn't it? So there's two things saying, look, what do the rules currently say and what's an abuse of the rules? So going back to your very starting point, if he were a Christian, it's appalling the persecutions that happen to Christians and others around the world, and we need to guard against that. The fact that a convicted sex offender could still get the relevant permissions is something they need to look at and call out. So the one thing is look at the system at the moment, check the rules and make sure they're stable. And if they're not stable, deal with those, and then work out the abuses and deal with that as well.
So Eve, how do we stop this from happening again? I know Eborn's saying we've got to change the rules, but how do we stop more independent churches going out and vouching for these people?
I think there needs to be some sort of screening process. I think people need to have their background checked. And I think it's less an issue here of religion and more one that he was a sex offender. I don't think it matters what his religion is. I think it's a nice line, you know, sex offender got into our country via the church. However, there are sex offenders within the church, people who are non-migrants who are sex offenders. I think just generally we need to be more cautious and more vigilant about looking out for these people, these offenders. I mean, it happened years ago with Ian Huntley, haven't we learned? I mean, police sharing information, that needs to be happening more. So it needs to be a collective effort from all of our institutions.